A majority of people's last word of the year is one. How many people slept instead? This comment section is summarizing Reddit beautifully. Maybe two due to all the mini delays in broadcasts etc. And their first word is happy. Majority, unlikely. Plurality, sure. There's still a second left after one, so it's more likely hap. In my culture it's customary to count up to 12, as the bell on the clock rings 12 times, signifying midnight, so I'd say here the majority of people's last word is 12 or sometimes 11, after which we just say Happy New Year x 200b, not arguing with the OP, just sharing. I think you're vastly overestimating the number of people who stay up and do a countdown. Mine was stuck. My last sentence, specifically, was fuck, this shit is stuck, referring to the cork on my champagne bottle. I would wager seriously against this. I'm a contrarian. I count to 10 and then yell Happy New Year. Wrong, it would be happy because most start the word happy several milliseconds before it's the actual new year. I don't do countdowns. I don't even remember what my last word of the year was. Read it as people's last word and was confused on why people would be counting down their death. LOL, the majority of the world doesn't speak English. Wow, I came to say how this post fucked me up LOL. But these comments are so Reddit that it hurts LMAO. Really? Mine was SHIT. People arguing that saying one in a non-English native language isn't the same thing as saying one in English is Reddit pedantry at its finest. I still haven't said my first word of the year. Waiting to find the right one foot. My last words of the year were oh shit, what time is it, did we am I? A majority of people's first word of the year is happy. Mine was fuck because at -5 seconds one of the damned kids yeeted a wine glass onto the 3K wooden table. And the first words of the year are woo or Happy New Year. 8 too much, passed out like a mofo at 7, woke at 1 to take the grandest shit of this year. The number one word every Redditor should be familiar with is pedantic. Before asking a question, ask yourself this: is this a real observation, or merely a pedantic one? A majority? Prove it. Mine was what? Because I forgot I set the TV to turn off automatically at midnight a few months ago. I would think it could be year because technically Happy New Year should fall on 0. Possibly. Maybe? How do you spell the sound of snoring? That's my last word. You wildly overestimate how many people count down. It took me scrolling through many comments to even realize the implication was that one is part of a countdown. I don't think I've ever counted down on New Year's. I was like one. One what? What one? Bad shower, thought is bad. Didn't even think of countdown, thought more of the phrase have a good one. I don't think the majority of people actually stay up until midnight. I haven't stayed up till midnight since I was 29. Why would you assume that an English word, a word of the third most common first language in the world, is the last word? Not really. I say it's the time it takes for the signal to bounce around to you and display on your TV, the last word is more likely 3. Good lord, people. OP meant one in whatever language you speak. We're off to a picky 2024. I bet night beats that. Shower thought it's traditional for people to count down to midnight on NYE. You're assuming the majority of people stay up on New Year's Eve and count down, which is false. A majority of people aren't native English speakers. You do realize most people don't speak English? Due to time differences, clocks being out of sync, and people being drunk, the last word is actually very likely to be 3, 2, 0, or happy. English is not the most spoken language in the world. Why think you are overestimating the amount of people that speaks English? I myself said instead, for instance. Most people can't speak English lol. Mine was somewhere between 10 and 5 because the TV broadcast had a delay. Ring to rule them all? Mine was ha because I was about to say Happy New Year, but it was too early. Mine was, yeah, I know it's midnight, that's why I'm making drinks lol. Mine was, I took too many edibles, but I get your point. When you're in a small to medium-sized group of people, there's usually just one guy/gal counting down while the rest wait in anticipation. My last words were, let me open the clock app, I can record later. And their first word for the new year is probably happy, which is nice. But you got this from the other thread. Good point. Therefore the most common first word of the year is happy. Most people that celebrate New Year's do it by watching a TV broadcast of the celebration, which displays the countdown on TV. There is a few seconds delay, and if steaming, can be a much longer delay. If you look at an accurate clock, it will be ahead of the countdown. Therefore, the last word said of the actual New Year is probably 4 or 6. Or even not a number at all. My son last night counted down the New Year with his phone clock, which is accurate, and the clock turned 12:00:00 when there was still 42 seconds left on the TV. Most live TV broadcasts have a delay, so it was probably 5 or 6. Not mine. My last word was snoora. My last word of 2023 was fuck, and first word of 2024 was off. The majority of people's first words of the year are happy. Unless English isn't your first language or if you were asleep. I was alone playing a video game when the clock struck midnight last night. I honestly don't remember what my last word of 2023 was, but I know it wasn't one. Also, the first word of the year is happy. I read that as LSAT, and was pondering why people would say 1 on their law tests. I fell asleep before midnight, didn't do a countdown. Joke's on you, I don't speak English, so I technically don't say 1. I think mine was, you couldn't pay me enough to be in that crowd. I was watching the FNAF movie and didn't notice the year changing. The majority of people's first word of a new year is happy. What time is it? Followed by the first words of the year, hey, look at that. What this really took me a minute to get. Who came from the other shower thought that said that most people's first word of the year is happy. How do you say 1 in Chinese? And their first word of the year is likely happy lol followed up by New Year's. Plurality. Not even close to a majority. Not even close. Mine was sure. Wife asked if I wanted to watch a movie, I said, sure, and we watched that straight through until after 12:30. You highly overestimate the amount of people actually counting down from 10 like in the movies. Mine was 8. The TV's countdown was off. My phone already said 12:00. 2 and happy are also pretty popular. Mine was thank, followed by fucking. If they're counting down along with the TV's live broadcast, which has a delay, their last word of the year is more likely something like 16. I didn't notice of the year and I thought this was something about dying in surgery, and your last words were when the anesthesiologist asking you to count backwards from 10. Nope. The TV delay was as high as 35 seconds. They were over half a minute into 2024 when they said 1. Your phone would have the accurate time. Mine was I'm sleepy as I didn't even make it to the countdown, lol.